Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of SidTalks. Today we'll be joined by Mr. Akash Verma, who's the author of multiple psychological thrillers, the latest being Only the Good Die Young. And we'll have him today as we talk about his book and his writing journey. He will just join us in a minute and then we can start. Akash is here.
Hi.
Hi, am I
Yeah,
audible
you're
now?
you're better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my Wi-Fi dished me at the last minute.
So
So
no problem. Wi-Fi, there are problem of disconnecting themselves.
yeah, in fact, during Insta Lives, they have this particular thing that they will not let us talk.
Okay, no worries. One second, I'm trying
Great.
to get.
Yeah, sure.
I think we can get on with it.
Great. So,
Yeah,
I'll just take a minute to introduce you.
sure.
Uh, Akash Verma is an entrepreneur. He's the co-founder of two internet startups in India, in the fashion and food sectors.
Only
Prior to
fashion.
this, he was only fashion.
Only fashion. Only fashion. Yeah, yeah. Only
Okay.
fashion. Yeah.
So, in the fashion sector, prior to this, he was in the corporate sector in organizations such as Coca-Cola, Big FM, and Red FM. His work has taken him across the country, and he uses this experience to give context to his stories. He has authored multiple books, the latest being Only the Good Die Young, which is a sequel to You Never Know. He is
Yeah.
currently based out of Gurgaon, and he is interested in cinema, literature, history, and travel.
Yes.
So, welcome to Sit Talks, and thank you for joining us for this session.
Hi, Sid. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
So, let us talk about your startups first before we move on to the book section.
Yeah.
So, would you like to tell us a bit about your startups?
So my startup is called Chokore. So Chokore in Hindi is a square, as we all know. So essentially, it's a fashion accessories startup. So the thought
Okay.
was that though men's accessories and women accessories to a large extent, so yes, they are there everywhere. Okay, so they are so for men's accessories, if you go to a Park Avenue or a Tommy Hilfiger or any brand, any international menswear brand, so you will have accessories not at the upfront but somewhere in the at the back. And though accessories is a
Right.
about $1 billion market in the country, and so there is no brand that has really been able to position itself in the accessory space. So our endeavor, so we tested this concept of men's accessories in the market about 3 years earlier ago, and we found out that the consumers are really looking at men's accessories in a variety of designs at a particular price, the best of quality and at a premium. So from a quality and a look perspective, they need to be premium, but
Right.
they need to be accessible. Okay, so that's how
Right.
we launched Choco. So we started with a pocket square, okay, which is I'm sure you'll be wearing it, and neckties and men's scarves and cufflinks and all of that. So the entire paraphernalia. And so we have about 800 to 1,000 designs right now. And so we sell across the country and through our own website. So there is a brand that is we are wanting to create with Choco
Right.
in this space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting proposition, especially in the men's section where we see very less
Yes,
designs and accessories
yes,
coming up.
yes,
We have those
yes,
standard colors and designs.
yes,
Those are
yes,
there.
yes, yes. Accessories we feel is a tool of expression because
Right.
everything else is the same. Both you and me are wearing a sweatshirt, okay? Or when we go to
Right.
the offices, we go to a party or we go to a social gathering and so on and so forth. So there is hardly any differentiation. You wear a jacket, I wear a
Right.
jacket. You wear a shirt, I wear a shirt. Both of us wear a trouser.
Exactly.
But it is only through an accessory that you are able to differentiate. So we want to really position our accessories as tools of expression
Expression.
and people, and you and me should look different because that's what we are.
Right.
We are individual people with great personalities. So both of us should stand apart in that sense, and accessories help us, kind of define our individuality in that sense.
Correct.
Yeah, which
That's
is how
that's
our
very
tagline,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, which is how our the tagline also goes, which says express yourself. Okay, because that's
Okay.
how you can express. So depending on your mood, depending on the day part that you are, you have the ability to express yourself in a very, very different
Different.
way.
So talking about tools of expression, let's talk about your writing journey.
Yeah,
So you have penned multiple books now. So
yeah.
if you have to explain your writing process, how does it actually go about?
So, so when I started writing, which was in the year, I think 2008. Yeah, in 2008 was when I actually started to write. So although my a little bit of background about myself, so my parents are eminent Hindi writers, awarded Hindi writers. So in that sense, my house has been a hub of literati right from the start. So I have been exposed to books all my life. So my home was a library, and Hindi writers of repute and stature, to name a few, जैसे कुंवर नारायण जी हुए, शीला शुक्ल जी हुए, जिनकी आपने राग दरबारी जरूर पढ़ी होगी. कुंवर नारायण जी तो
Mm,
बहुत ही एमिनेंट पोएट रहे हमारी कंट्री के, सारे अवार्ड्स मिले उनको. नरेश सक्सेना, मुद्रा. So शुरू से ही, right from the start, I have been in between them. I वो घर में माहौल था ऐसा. But it took me a long time to kind of, so I think, yes, somewhere it was there writing, but writing came in late in 2008. So that's part one of your question. Part two of your question is, what is your writing process? So my writing process earlier was used to be so I used to take a lot of time in writing a book, but now the process is, so when a thought comes to my mind, I let that thought marinate in my mind for about 2 to 3 months. जैसे वो हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कि अ, भैंस जुगाली करती है ना, बोलते हैं ना, जो
huh,
कुछ में चारा होता है जुगाली करती. So
huh,
that's how I marinate that thought in my mind, look at different possibilities, do a lot of research at that time, do a lot of research at that time in terms of searching on the internet. So if my story is location based, so if I have to write about that place, I'll go and stay there. I'll visit that place. In fact, just to give you an example, my before I started to write thrillers, my one of my earlier books was called A Broken Man, which was about a
right.
Dalit boy fighting against all odds to become someone. Okay, so that I needed to understand the how actually, how one stays if one belongs to that community. So I remember having traveled to Bihar and into the villages. The rest I spent about 7, 10 days and so on and so forth, so I could write more clearly. But now, jumping back to my current to the current synthesis, so it's about 2.5, 3 months where I research. If I have to visit, I visit. I do write a lot of copious notes. I make my calendar, which one may call the way your chapters roll one after another. I write a lot of
Okay.
character notes, and then, but when I start writing a book, which is about a 80,000 words novel, because that's my standard size of the book, then it takes me about 8 to 12 weeks to write it,
Okay.
not more than that now. So which makes it about 5.5, 6 months till now. So then I send it to my first editor, which is, so me, and that's not the publisher yet. So that's my first editor, Tulika. She's based out of Pune, and extremely good. I'm lucky to have found her. So I send my work to her, and then we go through that writing, editing for about a month or so before I submit it to my publisher. So you would say from the thought germination, marination to submission is about 6, 7 months, 6 months. Okay, maybe a few weeks here and there, you may add.
Right,
And
right.
फिर तो उसके ऊपर वाला मालिक है. Then the author,
Very well.
then publisher has got their own schedules, they have their own timelines, etc., etc.
Right.
So that's how I work. Yeah.
Still, 6 to 7 months is not that
No,
long.
it's not. It's not really not that.
It that's quite fast.
So now I found
So
that rhythm.
basically,
Rhythm. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, you do the groundwork before you start, penning
Before
or
I start.
typing it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
writing of
So then
itself.
it's tight.
Then
Then it's
pure
tight.
writing.
Then then I'm absolutely clear that agar if I'm writing about something, so in thrillers you find typically very cliffhanger moments. Okay, so
Right.
if it's something about, I'm just giving an example. So if I have to write about forensics, then I need to know about forensics, right? So
Right.
I would know till what level in forensics in India and in Western countries is very different. So they're very developed, we are not.
Right.
So I need to know exactly where do we stand. So I need to talk to a couple of people. I need to read a lot. So that's how I think it's not very distinct. I think every author, the other day I was talking to Navneet, who's another lovely writer, thriller writer who I really like, and we were
Right.
talking, and his writing process was almost the same. I'm sure so many other authors have shared with me. So it's more or less, some authors take a lot more time in writing. I don't, because my writing, so once I've defined a chapter or my sequence of chapter, then I'm pretty free flowing. Then I'm so
Right.
after writing a chapter, I'll edit it once and then I'll move on to the next chapter and so on. So that's how it goes. But yes, 6, 7 months is the time that I take.
So, do the characters actually come first, or is it the plot that actually comes first, and then you fit different characters into the plot?
No, see, it's always the story.
Okay.
So more than the plot, I'm just saying something I should find interesting, which it should not interesting is a very halka word for that. Something should be so intriguing that pulls me into doing that job for next 7 to 8 months is the first thing. Okay. So it should be as compelling. So which is the, these word that I mentioned to you, jugali or marinating, which one does. So that
Right.
should be, मतलब उसके लिए खाना भी तो अच्छा होना चाहिए ना, तभी आप जुगाली करोगे, वरना तो
सही बात
you will throw it away, right? Which happens sometimes. You don't find a thought as intriguing after 3, 4 weeks, and then you say, no, yeah, no point. Let's do something else. But
है. Okay.
usually it has not happened to me. So if I've stuck to an idea that I want to write on this story, then I've hardly chickened out. I've not chickened out. So I've kind of gone through that grind now.
That's
Yeah,
interesting. So talking about your latest book and the prequel, so we'll talk
you
about
never
those.
know.
What
Yeah,
was what you never know, and
yeah,
only the good die young.
yes.
So what was the inspiration behind writing Dhruv and Anuradha's story?
You will be very surprised. In fact, I've shared it a couple of times, but if someone you never know is a dark thriller, and Only the Good Dying is much darker. I'm right now getting very initial feedback, so people are finding it unputdownable, which is fair, but some people are saying it's very gory, and it's because it's revenge is at the core of it, of Only the Good Die Young. But the actual inspiration of both these books comes from a very sensitive film by Gulzar Sahab, which is called Ijazat. You'll be very surprised.
Okay.
It's a story of three people. If I don't know whether you've seen that film, it's a beautiful film. If you've not watched, it's one of my favorite films. It has Nasiruddin Shah, Anuradha Patel, and Rekha. Okay, and it's a very sensitive story of three people. Obviously, two are married, and one is a love affair that exists
Right.
beyond. So, and it's extremely sensitively done. Okay, so that story from the time that I watched this film has stayed with me. Okay, and it's been a long time. So I always wanted to do. So when this thought was germinating in my mind, uh, so I wa- so extramarital affairs or relationships out of a marriage have till now been treated in a very cliched way, to my mind, the way I
Right.
understand it. That it is always the third person is immoral, it's immoral relationship, and all of that, and it's a total, which I agree it could be. So I'm not saying that it doesn't scar people. So I'm saying yes, it does, but it happens, doesn't it? It's a part of our
Right.
society. You see it happening
True.
all around you. Now, one way is to shut your eyes and move away and don't even talk about it. The other way is to deal with it and try to see what are the different dimensions that you can open in that. And not all dimensions can always be negative. See, we
Right.
need to understand that that all of us are gray, including you, including me. We are not totally black or white. While, however hard we may try to project our goodness all the time, but our faces are different, and faces change according to situations and according to environment. Okay.
Right.
So a very good Siddharth in this video chat, in Insta chat with me, could be a different person in some other environment, and so can
Right.
Akash be. So one needs to understand that, and for an author, it needs to be very fearlessly written about. Now it is for the so after you write it, then it is for the reader to decide good or bad, right or wrong. That's the way we decide. So many things happen around us in the environment. We open newspapers, you see so many things. So we decide, no, that it's good, it's incorrect, it's correct. But the idea was to write a story based on that. Obviously, uh, it was not a thesis that one was writing on those relationships, but somewhere I wanted to put the point that people can fall in love even when they have even when they are committed. It happens. And if they fall in love, what happens? I'm saying that one needs to know, because that happens all around us. So yeah, so that was the inspiration. A slightly long answer, but I guess
Yeah. No,
it
that
brings
was
clarity.
actually interesting to know, how the thought
Yeah,
came about and what was the entire point of the story.
yeah,
So when you wrote the first book, did you
yeah.
actually plan the sequel, or did the sequel arrive later as the book
No,
progressed?
no, it didn't. So actually, this book is about uh, three people. So Dhruv is a very successful corporate executive. He was riding the ladder of success, and he has got a great family life, by the way, with his wife Shalini and kids. And suddenly, this mysterious woman Anuradha comes into his office and joins his office, and he's deeply attracted to her. So much so that he can't hide this attraction, and they start having an affair, which he tries to hide from his colleagues and his family and all of that. But little does Dhruv know that this girl is hiding a secret which could destroy their relationship. Okay, so eventually, first book was that the their in the end both of them separate, never to meet again. So
Right.
that was meant to be like that. But when I was talking to my publishers after the book was released, and 5 6 months later, so my publisher said, and she told me that this story is so real and so relatable, and so can there be? So it doesn't end. The story doesn't end. So
Okay.
the two
You're
of
right.
them separate.
Yes.
Yeah, two of them separate,
It's a
never to meet.
cliffhanger.
So yeah, so it's a cliffhanger. So what if they meet again? So that was the starting point. So I said, okay, if the publisher was excited to do this, I was equally excited to go back and explore their worlds again. But having said that, it's a difficult thing, to write a sequel. For me, it was a first, while a lot of people do it very successfully. But for me, it was because it's a very complex in that sense. So while the elements of a thriller, of a great story and cliffhangers and mystery and all of that is there, but at the end, it's a very friction-filled relationship, if I could
Right.
say that. So kind of
Okay.
to get that relationship back, okay, and once you've separated and kind of explore it again was difficult. However, the sequel was done, but there is one more thing that I would like to say here. So when I done the first draft of Only the Good Die Young, it had a supernatural angle to it. Okay, and for the first time,
Right.
I had done this. Okay, and I was very excited that, for the first time as a thriller author, I thought I had pushed the envelope. And I was very excited when I met my editor and I gave her the first draft and I said, hey, I think to me it's sounding great and whatever, so on and so forth. And couple of weeks later, she came back and she told me that, Akash, it doesn't work, unfortunately. I
Okay.
was taken aback. Okay, and that was so if anyone who's writing here, who's listening to us, would want to know that it was rejected actually, and
Okay.
polite, that was a polite way of rejection, saying that it doesn't work. So
Doesn't
I
work.
said, it doesn't work. Yeah. So I said, why doesn't it work? I think it's too good. I've done so much of research. I have gone into that, that supernatural world, read up a lot on the
Right.
ghoris and tantra and mantra and all of that, and it was sounding great to me. She said, no, your first book was about real people, real environment, real office, things happening around you. But when you add supernatural element to it, it becomes a bit unbelievable. The story, overall
Okay.
story. becomes unbelievable. So I thought about it and I went back and I thought about it for a couple of days and I said, okay, because see, ultimately, authors, I truly understand that as an author, we tend to become self-indulgent sometimes in our own little worlds, but ultimately, the success of the book, as much as it is important to the author, it is important to the
Right.
publisher as well. You know, it's a
Correct.
business at the end of it. So after the day your manuscript is signed and sealed and given to the publisher, then it's a business and it's a commercial deal.
Correct.
Okay. Now, then, matlab, you can't say that you have to take care of publishers' interests also. So I understood that. And I understood where the challenges lay. And so I redrafted it, I rewrote it. I rewrote almost the entire major parts of it. So it took me I think another 2, 3 months, after which I went back and I gave it to her and said, I am so glad that I did that because I can tell you that what the book was that at that time and what the book is now, the change has absolutely made it very real, very relatable, and absolutely smashingly thrilling. Is is what I can say. Sometimes these inputs one needs to always take because it will help improve the quality of your book.
Exactly. It gives a different perspective to what you are writing, and
Yeah.
it actually helps you improve.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, Another thing that I noticed in both the books was that the title was bold, but then you had a small, very thing added to the title, which was written in such a small font that if you're not looking closely, you will miss
Yes.
it. So, what's
Yes.
the
Yes. Yes.
idea behind that?
So there is no. Actually, this title was not given by me. It was given by my publisher and
Okay,
again to my editor, sorry. And so I'm again, so I think it's a very bold, and it's actually there and it comes in the couple of first chapters. Regarding the small text, I think here it adds that, so I don't want to kind of give spoilers out here, but
okay, okay,
yeah, so but you will understand the context after you read the first chapter that why is it there,
okay.
so I think the first chapter will explain to you and by the time you read the last chapter you'll the title how it's so integral to the book you one would I'm sure the reader would understand.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, how the titles actually relate to the story. And, once you read the last page, you actually go back to the cover and then you understand the different elements and the title that's
Yeah.
there, the thought that went behind it. Uh, so, on that note, were you involved in the cover design or is it a completely different process?
No, so with Penguin, my publishers are Penguin Random House India. I think they have got a team of a good people team inside and everything. I think everything is extremely structured and professional to the core. So yes, you get to ultimately you get a few options. So I was not involved. I am not a creative director, and I don't want to get involved where I can't add anything. It's a very subjective
Okay,
opinion. My job is to write
right,
the book. I am a subject expert, subject matter expert for writing a story. That's period. After
okay,
that, one must understand that one can give inputs and one can say, okay, fine, I feel this cover looks slightly better than that, which the publishers always take that input. I think all publishers would do that from their authors. But then the final call, I would want it to be the publishers because
okay.
obviously any publisher will not put something on the cover which doesn't look good. I
That's true.
don't believe that will
That's
ever
true.
happen. So with all my publishers before that, Srishti and everyone else, it has been extremely two-way process. And sometimes we have given input, sometimes they have, but here it is completely their own internal teams who have done it.
So, if you had to pitch your story, like you do a pitch to an investor, if you had to give a pitch for the story of Dhruv and Anuradha, how would you do it? What in one line?
In one line. Hmm. Hmm. I don't know, yeah. You asked me a very tough question. I think maybe during the course of our conversation, I'll think about it while we're talking. So let me not answer it here because then I'll give you some jumbled
Definitely.
answer. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Uh, how has been your publishing experience?
Sorry.
Good and publishers publishing books. How has been your publishing experience?
See, publishing is it's been my books have been published, and uh, it's a I don't know how to answer it, but see, for an author should really understand that waiting, wait, and patience should be the two
Okay,
hallmarks of an author. A lot of times, and including me, we have been so as soon as I wrote the my first manuscript, the second day I wanted a great publisher to accept it. The third day I want the book to be out. Fourth day to sell million copies, and fifth day to be made into a film. It doesn't work like that. Okay, never has
right,
it worked like that. It will never will. For an author, I think now after having written this is the sixth book, and I've got a couple of manuscripts
right,
ready also. So uh, I have understood the importance of waiting after you have written a book. Okay. So
okay,
the most important point is that an author, if he's a first time author, people who have written three, four books would definitely know what I'm trying to say. But if for a first time author, he has to really wait and hone his manuscript till the time it's his masterpiece, till the time it's his Mona Lisa. Okay. And
right,
by which I mean not just making sure that your story is perfect, editing is perfect. So your book
right,
shouldn't be, so don't get your book edited only by yourself and by your girlfriend or by your wife. No, that's my advice. So that doesn't work. So I'm sure at your end also you need to get it edited by take help. There are so many good people around, okay, and who can provide help on editing. After you get your book very well edited, then it is ready to go to a publisher. Yeah. So to
right,
your point that how has your experience been of publishing? So if your product is good, any publisher wants new voices. Any publisher wants great
correct,
written stories. But there are not, if you look at fiction writing and thriller writing or romance, etc., you'll find very few names. So publishers are always looking for great stories written well. Okay. If I rewrite a great story, the way I told you, you asked me, no, then give me a one-line spiel. Now,
right,
one-line spiel, I don't know whether I'll be able to give you of this story. So I'll think while we are talking.
right,
But unless and until I'm prepared, okay, if I send a half-hearted manuscript to a publisher, my publishing experience will always be very bad. It's bound to be bad,
right.
because it's okay
Your
that I
product
might
is not that powerful.
So it's okay. It's okay that if my product is great and I'm rejected 50 times, 100 times, that's fine.
Right,
All of us get that. All of us have walked that path, whoever is writing. Okay. But the important thing is one should have absolute confidence in the product with a well-written proposal, who you are addressing, what, who is it that you want to address, what genre you are writing in. So all of these questions need to be addressed very clearly. Then your publishing experience is what? Yeah, publishing experiences publishers have got. You would be surprised to know that an average editor in a good publishing house or any publishing house receives a minimum of 10 proposals every day. Okay.
okay,
Which comes to about 10, if I'm this 10 is less. Okay.
okay,
Realistically, if you ask me, it will be 15 or 20. Okay. That's the amount of workload that a publisher slash an editor has. So, which is about 600, 700 proposals a month, which is about 10,000 proposals a year, out of which how many books can that publisher print of a new author? अब उसके अलावा उसकी एक established अपने
right.
authors की तो list है ही ना, मतलब how many he
उनको
will
तो
print?
करना ही
10, उनको तो करना ही है, तो 10-12 करेगा साल में, 15 करेगा. Now 15 out of 7,000. So you get
है.
the
Right,
probability. So if you put it down in front of you, it's a very simple matrix. So to stand in that 15, your proposal needs to be absolutely, absolutely good, brilliant.
right,
So that's what authors, including me, all of us have to understand. The proposal has to be really, really good, really thought out. Yeah. But
right,
yes, to your point again, if then now there are so many options open. So you have Kindle where you can self-publish and all of that. So if you still think it might be so in sometimes that the proposal of the author or the story that the author has written is great, but due to certain circumstances which I don't know about, they can't publish, then go there. I'm saying there are so many authors who
right,
are Indian authors. who are doing so well on Kindle self-publishing. You just go and see them. So I'm sure they're very happy. They're directly able to send. Then, if their books are so well received, good, one day a good publisher will come to them automatically.
Right.
I hope I've
No,
answered your
that.
question.
Yes, yes. In fact, that's a very interesting perspective on the publishing industry because it basically tells you how the thing works. It's not just about just writing and going to a publisher and saying, "ये रही मेरी किताब, इसको publish कर." Doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it does. See, we as authors we tend to understand the producer. Oh, sorry, publisher it's not philanthropy. It's a business
Right.
at the end of it.
That's true.
For them, why would not someone not be interested in publishing your book if it makes commercial sense for them? And why
Exactly.
will someone not do it?
Yeah, it's
So
exactly like making a business proposal. You have
absolutely.
to make it perfectly, otherwise it won't work.
Yes, 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 yes.
So we talk about the genre that you write in dark thrillers. Do you think that works in India? There is a good market for dark thrillers now.
India is opening up, yeah. But I would not, I would be, it would be uh, not be very correct for me to say, no, the market is great, all of that. See, we must need to understand that India has got, in terms of reading, has got its challenges. Reading the numbers of readers of books,
Right,
okay? While
right,
readership might be growing year on year. I don't know the numbers, but I'm just making an intelligent estimated guess is what I can do.
right,
So while the readership would be going, but so many other things have started to come in. So there are now so many more authors. There are now so many wonderful books, categories such as non-fiction, which have opened up brilliantly.
right,
Plus, there is this whole onslaught of web and OTT, okay,
correct,
and mobile and content on mobile, okay. So it's Add to that, that the education levels of our country are still not uh, absolutely wonderful the way we would want them to be. So that's growing at a very low pace. The quality of education here plays a role because how can people take degree, but so degrees are
right,
given out, but one is not adept for that education. So all of that combined together so the way readers are there in UK or US, and especially for thrillers where uh, uh, a lot of intelligent thrillers are being written. Okay, all
right,
across. If you go to US, you read some US thrillers or writers based out of UK or Japanese thrillers, writers like Kani Minato and stuff like that. So they are writing very intelligent thrillers. Okay.
true,
Uh, right now in our country, thrillers are still at the cusp. So yes, there are writers, but I'm not too sure that thriller as a genre is as big as a romance genre. Okay, in India,
right,
but a thriller genre in the West, and in the West, I would mean the entire Europe and US in that sense. In Europe, predominantly UK and neighboring countries, but US, it's huge. The number of thriller writers and the what do I say, and the readership that thriller writers enjoy is just out of and dark thrillers people have gone to people have nuanced dark thrillers. They are writing
right.
about a particular thing. So I'm sure I had mentioned once in your when we had met last time that you read Silent Patient or the book that
Yeah,
I read last year which is called Confessions, which is by Kani Minato. Okay. And she's a Japanese queen of thriller and mystery. And you read that thriller, it's absolutely mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling. So, but we have got a great audience because people are willing to say, yes, wow, wonderful thriller, and everyone is ready to buy copies, which
right.
is why we sell millions and millions of copies all across. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
remember Silent Patient, reading the Silent Patient,
yeah,
and the last thing, when things actually turn out, that I actually realized, the difference between, the thriller writing that they have actually.
yeah,
So that's very interesting. We have a couple of questions from the
yeah,
audience. There's a question is from a sustainable point of view, why need to publish millions of copies when you can read a soft copy?
yeah.
Okay.
So yes, so Kindle
So,
option is always there. So one, that is one's choice. I would like to, but for me, for example, I would. So yes, I read a lot on Kindle also, but I like to carry my books all around. So I do understand. So some people who care about uh, the environment to such an extent, which is why Kindle is there. So that option,
right,
let it be for different people. For people like me who want to carry their hard copies, let them carry their hard copies,
exactly.
please.
In fact,
Yeah.
getting the Kindle copies autographed is another challenge. So I think for that we
Yeah,
need paperbacks.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's true.
so we have a question from Dr. Sheetal Nair as well. He's asking,
Yeah.
how important is it to visualize a situation as an author?
Okay. Hi, Sheetal. We know each other otherwise also. So great. So visualize. It is very important. So there are two things. So one is a book that we write, which is a scene in a book, and one is a screenplay. In a screenplay, you have to go deeper down because so perhaps in a screenplay, if you have to write about Akash and Sid talking and having a chat, then you would perhaps have to describe this painting also, which is there behind me
Right.
in detail. But it is very important to visualize. See, if you are not able to, if you don't visualize that scene in detail, the emotions won't come out of the characters. See, ultimately, what do you do as a writer? What do you do? So, if as a writer, if I'm writing about a Insta live between Sid and Akash in my book, okay, I would create a situation and then leave Akash and Sid to do their jobs. Then that writing
Correct.
should flow. It is not that whenever, and I'm sure he himself is an author, he would have. So we don't kind of I don't before writing a a chapter in which there is a in which there is a so you always visualize the scene. You never visualize
Right.
what they would be talking about. That comes as you go
Okay.
along. So the stronger your visualization, okay, the deeper your words would be, and they would be
Okay.
a lot more effective if you're able to set up this tension. So imagine this that Sid is a police officer and I am a killer. Okay. If
Right.
I set up the tension, if I set up the nuances, if I set up what Sid is wearing, how his eyes are looking, there is a beads of perspiration, which could be of anxiety, which could be of nervousness, which could be of hate, and then what
Right.
is the feeling of Akash, then you'll be able to get that chemistry out and the dialogues will just flow. So, as an author, you ease your job of writing totally if you have visualized that
Okay.
sequence well. Which is
Okay.
why in films, the point that I'm always trying to make is that, which is why in films, they go to the detailing of what painting would be there, what would Akash be wearing, what would आकाश की अगर इतनी बियर्ड है तो वो कितनी होगी, मूछें होंगी कि नहीं
Right.
होंगी, कम होंगी, ज्यादा होंगी. So screen पे you write get into that because they want all the actors to actually believe that they are in that environment, for the cameraman to
Right.
place the camera along ways, for the set guy to create the set. So similarly, unfortunately, in writing we are all alone. Authors are all alone. We don't get the liberty of
Right.
working with 15 different people. So we have to
Correct.
set the scene as
Right.
clearly as possible, you know.
Yeah,
And
that's interesting.
if you're writing thrillers, just to add on, as a thriller writer, I have purposely stayed away from writing very long sentences. So my all
Okay.
books, if you read my writing, so they're because see, I personally believe that in tense situations, we hardly हम डायलॉग थोड़ी ना बोलते हैं यार. मतलब मैं आपसे
सही
मतलब
बात है.
आप हम एक दूसरे को डायलॉग निकालते हैं. We talk in sentences. Remember the last time you spoke to someone, whoever it could be, except your would-be girlfriend. In that sense, whom you have borrowed the dialogue from. I was saying your sentences are one, two max,
Right.
unless and until if you are irritated or once you are angry at someone, if you are really, then you would have perhaps three, four sentences. Our lives are time is so short and our reactions are so instant.
Correct.
So it has to be as real as possible. So focus a lot on visual, on creating that
Right.
visual around you. And my belief is that I want to be crisp. I always believe in
Okay.
being crisp, which is what I had read in this Stephen King's book, which is everyone, if anyone is an aspiring author or authors here. So Stephen King has written this wonderful book which is called On Writing, which I think every thriller author, it's a must read. One must read. And he explains to you what the art is, and I am in love with that book. I keep referring to it like once every month for something.
Right.
Yeah,
So let's talk about your let's move away from the book and more about
yeah.
the writer. So what are you reading currently?
So Sid, I read. I am a voracious reader. I do this. Uh, this program on my channel which is called Talking Books. So I read a book every week, a thriller book every week, and then I kind of do a 5 minute thing on Talking Books, because on a long term perspective it's a news show, but over next couple of years I really want that somewhere I should also contribute in making the readership of thriller writing go up as much as I can, as much as I'm
Right.
able to. So I read very much. So what I'm currently reading. The last book that I read was uh, yeah, last week, which was it? I'm forgetting the name. I'm Confessions I read. Yeah, Confessions I read. No, Confessions I
Okay.
read long back. So yeah, yeah. So I read Magpies by Mark Edwards. So
Okay.
he's another UK-based author who I read before that. So I keep on reading lots. So I like some authors, okay, and then I go and read three, four, or five of their books. So
Okay.
I like, for example, Gillian Flynn. I write Ella Fairburg. I like Ruth Ware. I like Mark Edwards. I love Robert Dugoni from the US. I think Robert Dugoni is one superb thriller writer based out of US. In fact, Robert Dugoni read my book, You Never Know, and I reached out to him because I was so impressed. So I wanted him to read my book and at least, होता है ना कभी कभी कि बहुत
Right.
बहुत
एक
बहुत
लाइन बोल
ढूंढे,
दे.
एक मतलब दूसरे
Right.
यूएस के ऑथर भी तो हमारी थ्रिलर पढ़े और बताएं.
सही बात.
He was so kind, I can't tell you, and which is something that one should learn, that he read the book. Okay, though I pestered him a bit, and he read the book, and he loved it. He said that I'm ready to give you a blurb, and which came on my next book, and so we formed a kind of, we kind of go back and forth. And in fact, so Robert Dugoni writes this series which is called Tracy Crossfire series. Okay,
Okay.
which if someone is listening here should read. It's a wonderful series for thrillers. Okay, in fact, in Only the Good Die Young, the building apartment. Uh, where most lot of action takes place in the second half. I have named it Cedar Grove. This is a town this is kind of a my tribute to Robert Dugoni, because this is where that's his city from where this detective comes from, Tracy Crossfire. That's
Okay.
also called Cedar
Okay.
Grove. It's a fictional city. So yeah, and I read a lot of Japanese thrillers also. So I am in that sense a very I at least read four books, minimum four books a month. That's what I read. And I think one should read. If you want to be a writer of any genre, and you should be very clear about it, I believe that if you're writing a thriller, say for example, then one should know, the author should know what are the dimensions that other authors are trying to achieve when they're writing
Right.
thrillers in different parts of the world. Otherwise, it is like आप कुएं के मेंढक हो जाओगे. जैसे होता है ना कि आप सोचोगे कि मैं
हाँ
इसमें
हाँ हाँ.
राइटिंग कर रहा हूँ बहुत बढ़िया. Although your visualization power, your skill could be as good as any international author. I'm not doubting that. But unless and until you understand what kind of thrillers are being written, okay, and what kind of thrillers are getting lapped up. So there is this thriller, no, the Woman in the Window, which was
Right.
by
Right.
this
Right. Right. Right.
first time author Finn. I'm forgetting the name.
Fin
AJ
Fin.
Finn. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
AJ Finn. Yeah,
AJ
yeah.
Fin.
AJ Finn. Yeah. So that's a psychological thriller, and suddenly this author kind of broke through, and it is about.
Right.
So I'm just saying these kind of books, they will help all the authors to understand what are the different genres that are being written. So you can take your excellent storytelling skills and create as intriguing plots like that. Okay,
Right. Right. It
and
gives
not
you
in
that
it
inspiration
gives you
and
that
the challenge to
dimension.
actually
Yeah,
go
yeah,
there.
yeah. Even for murder mysteries, there's this lovely and just the yeah. So the writer. So there's this wonderful. thriller that I had read a couple of weeks back, which is called The Guest List. Yeah. And it is this by
Okay.
this writer, yeah, Guest List by this UK writer, Foley, some Foley. If I'm forgetting the first name, and it's exactly like a Agatha Christie novel. Huh? So few people come to a mansion in the island, on an island in a wedding in France. Okay, and one of the guests ends up dead. So absolutely
Okay.
Agatha Christie setting. Yeah, you remember the
Right.
old book. So
Right. Right.
one
Right.
deserted mansion, a stormy night, all the guests landing up, and then one guy stands dead. But the point that I was trying to tell you was, but you must read this book to understand how differently this author has written this
Okay.
Agatha Christie kind of novel. And like
Okay.
it's been turned into a psychological thriller. So that's the craft, you know, and that's the
Okay.
craft you will understand once you start reading those novels.
So, Antara is here from My Secret Bookshelf, and she
Yeah,
wants to know the Japanese thriller recommendations.
I like Kani Minato. I like Kigo Higashima. Yeah, उनकी वो The Devotion of Suspect X was one,
Right.
and I like Kani Minato a lot actually. So I'm still trying to build up that. But read Kani Minato if you can. I think it can be a good start. Then I can't remember offhand names, but yeah.
Okay. So, one last question. What are you working on next?
So so the next book is uh, well, I'm only thinking about this book. I'm not working on it. It's actually
Okay.
done. It's done. So it's a murder mystery. For the first time, I am doing a murder mystery, which is the next book. But it's written in a way, so it's not like a, it's a, so that murder mystery is a psychological thriller. Okay. So it's
Okay.
not like a murder mystery. So it's not written like that, but at the end of it, it's a murder mystery. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Now coming to your earlier question, when you said in about one line, do
Yes.
describe your book. I've been trying to do this. So this is the story uh, where the past comes back to haunt. Okay, where the past comes back to haunt two people in love.
Okay.
And is there, yeah, so is there love, is that love correct, incorrect? That's for the readers to understand or judge. But yes, it's what happens when your past comes back to haunt your lives once again. If that's the pitch, because some lot of times our we keep uh, a lot of times we think that past to chala gaya, but
Ha.
sometimes it can come back to destroy your lives. So I think both the first book and the second book are basically based on that theme.
Okay. So, would you recommend people to read you the first book first, or does the second book stand alone as well?
So I was very pleasantly surprised. So it was clearly they are clearly two different stories. Okay,
Okay.
so don't read them. So if you've not read the first book, if you're thinking the first couple of pages might confuse you a bit, but then it's absolutely different. As I said, the first story is over when the relationship broke. Okay, so two people
Okay.
were in a relationship. Girl was hiding something, past came back, and their relationship broke away. In the second, they were both of them were not supposed to meet again, but they meet, and once their paths cross, their past comes back again, threatening to destroy their lives once again in a more menacing way, where the whole
Okay.
crime start
Okay.
happening around them. So are these will the two people be able to save themselves? So that's the story. So uh, the first interaction that I had done
Right.
with someone, so he told me that till the last page, and which was when I was absolutely confident. He said that till the time I came to the acknowledgements, I did not know that there was a prequel.
Okay.
So that was very heartening. But however, the first part is also as exciting. So you can read that. And obviously, if you read part two after that, you will find the experience perhaps better.
Okay. So, thank you, Akash, for joining. Thank you. This was a wonderful discussion, and talking about your book, talking about the publishing process, and such great recommendations. In fact, I think a lot of people would have noted down the books.
Yeah.
So, we'll see a lot more thriller reading going on as well. Thank you for joining.
Same here,
Akash is the author of multiple books, and his latest, Only the Good Die Young, is now out.
which is
Uh,
here.
which is here. You can check it out. It has a prequel called You Never Know, and you can get your copies. It's available on paperback as well as Kindle. So go to Amazon, and the link is there. Link will be there in my bio. You can buy it from there, and you can search it on Amazon. It's there.
Is there in on bookstores, come into bookstores as well. So if you're planning to visit
Exactly.
a bookstore, please do that, because bookstores need people to come. Do read as many books, not just my book. Please, of course, read that, but please read as many books as you can. Trust me is the most wonderful thing that you would do to yourself. It will help you not in just building this habit, but in your life. Okay, it helps. The book reading helps in all aspects of life, huh? Going down to even official emails, even to
That's
striking
true.
a conversation with people, even to holding on to a discussion with the opposite sex. If you're trying to, trust
Right.
me, a discussion on books is any day better than a discussion on a web series. That I can guarantee you.
That's
You'll be luckier.
That's true. So thank you for that pitch. I think a lot of people will relate to that, and I think I'll cut this part out and keep this as a separate reel because
Yeah,
this benefits of reading.
yeah,
I'll
of
just
course,
just
yeah,
put out a part benefits of reading.
yeah.
So thank you, Akash.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for joining. It was a
Same here.
wonderful discussion, and I hope that the book goes places.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining, and see you. Cheers. Bye bye.
See you. So that was Akash Verma. Uh, he is the author of multiple thriller books. His latest, as we saw in the discussion, is Only the Good Die Young, and it's a psychological thriller. Do check it out. The link will be there in the description below, and in my bio. You can go and get a copy. And do let me know and Akash know how did you find it. That's it for today. For the next session, I'll keep you updated.